Oh my gosh, look at that little baby in the background. What do you think he's going to do? Think he's going to do anything? You think he's going to do a little trick or something?
I think he's going to go find something to try and eat or destroy. That's what my money's on.
Stick around and find out on this episode of
SMSoup.
Welcome back, everybody, to...
What are you looking for?
What's the name of this? Oh, that's right. SMSoup.
Oh my god, yeah.
The number one podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's all anybody can talk about. It's the number one podcast with soup in the name of the podcast, but at no point do they really ever reference soup. It's just not on the brain.
Correct.
I am joined today by you.
Shelby.
Yeah, you're Shelby.
And who are you?
I am...
Oh no. He's forgotten.
Who am I? I'm Spencer.
Nice to meet you.
And we're here, right? We're here to take people on this magical journey that we call life. You know, answering some of the biggest questions, like, how is the soup made?
Squinty eye.
You know?
You have to squint the whole time you question it.
How do you make this soup?
Yes, how?
What have you been getting up to, Shelby?
Nothing crazy. We had a reverse situation where I now had the weekend alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you get lonely?
I mean, it was very quiet in the apartment. So that was
Don't
weird.
like how you're dancing around it. So it's just a yes or no. I
wasn't really like lonely. It was just weird not having anyone to like talk to for 3 days. So, but normally when I'm in those situations, I just always have something playing, like music or a YouTube video.
Yeah. And
that helps like make it a little bit better.
Cool.
So yeah. That's it.
All right.
What have you been up to?
Nothing.
A whole lot of nothing.
A whole lot of nothing.
We were asked today if we're doing anything fun this week.
Mm-hmm.
And we both
lied through our teeth.
We said, no, I'm not really doing anything.
I mean, I guess
they're not really lying.
Fun is subjective.
Fun is subjective, yes.
Are we doing anything fun?
But we worded it as we have no plans. That was how we worded it.
Are we doing anything fun? No.
Yeah.
Oh. Like I said, it's subjective. Yeah, it was more so, I think, like, do you have any plans?
Yeah.
And that's what we were like. We were like, no. And then we turned and looked at each other like, we do have plans.
We're not going to tell them.
Because we don't want to make a big deal about it or have to talk about it.
Yeah, which is why we're dedicating a whole episode to it.
Yes.
We're moving. No, no. We're getting, once this episode comes out, we will have been married for a whole 48 hours when this episode comes out. So I thought nothing better. It's the audience applause for making it 48 hours.
Good job.
Yeah.
Didn't think those crazy sons of bitches would do it.
So I thought nothing better. Sorry, unless you did have anything else you just wanted to randomly talk about. That's why we're going to talk about the history of marriage.
Yeah, you know what? I do have something I want to talk about,
all right.
Shelby.
All right.
All right.
All right.
And it's the history of marriage. Let's get into it.
Oh
my Jesus.
What? I'm a note taker. What do you want from me? You don't look excited. Why don't you look excited? Don't look at my notes.
That's a lot.
Don't cheat. Why are you rolling your eyes?
All right. I just feel like this isn't going to be fun, like a certain game we played.
I disagree.
All right.
But anyway, so we're really just cutting to it. So I wanted to talk about marriage as a construct, some history bits about marriage throughout time, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like, and I do have a little note at the bottom for like wrap up, but I do feel like our opinions of marriage will come out very strong as we talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to start with that, or we just want to wait until we're in the throes of it?
It'll come up. But at the end of the day, people should do whatever they want to do.
Oh, 100%.
I don't give a shit what other people do.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you will.
Yeah.
If you'll indulge me for a second.
Oh, sure.
I think people should absolutely do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
You want to get married? Do it.
Do it, dude.
If you want to get married for religious reasons, personal reasons,
Do it.
fun,
Do it.
like, doesn't matter, right? And I know you'll get into it. I'm assuming the history behind marriage is strictly religious.
You'll find out.
Like I want to say that like it all started based on religion and pillars of community and owning a person like you own land and making deals with families to again like have power and shit like that. I feel like that's the purpose of religion.
Right.
Derogatory.
Right.
But like or religion, marriage, whatever I said. I meant marriage.
Yeah.
But like now it's like very different, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you do it because like you're committed to somebody. Like oftentimes it's probably not religious based.
Right.
And I know we'll get into it.
Yeah,
it's just stupid. It's stupid that you have to basically get married for like so many different like purposes to have like basically like a benefit. Like by being married, you are now or we're together awarded something that I should have just automatically had as a straight white man.
Right, of course.
It's just shit like that.
Right. Also, there was like so much to cover because so many different cultures and people have different interpretations of marriage.
Right.
So I'm very aware I'm probably missing a shit ton in theory. Also towards the end, I do just go down the route of how the US technically does weddings.
Right.
Again, very like I'm aware
Yeah,
it's not
like you
all
said,
done
like,
this way.
Yeah, I guess everything I'm saying is
Yes.
strictly from the mindset of like, yeah, because you're right. Because like,
Yeah.
a lot of there's a lot of cultural impact to weddings when really in America, I guess that's why I feel so negative towards the overall idea of it, is because there really isn't a cultural impact outside of you now get tax benefits.
Yeah.
And in case of an emergency, you probably have a pretty good claim to see the person you literally love and have spent a massive amount of time with. You have the right to like see them in a time of crisis.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of what we're saying is definitely US based or will end up being in the end. And obviously a lot of our personal perceptions based off that. And to anything I do say, there are exceptions to everything. Obviously, even when a tradition sits, people are always trying to like break out of that. But I just found the main points throughout history. Blah, 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 blah. There we have it. So, we ready to get started? Yeah?
Let's get started.
Let's get started. All right. I did have a few references, and the biggest one I want to point out, which I did. Oh, no, he's already out. The biggest one, which I honestly didn't really use here as an actual reference, it was just interesting to listen to this as I was taking my notes, was Dark History with Bailey Sarian. She does YouTube videos, if you don't know, and specifically it was the history of weddings, mostly focusing on wedding ceremonial like traditions and where they came from. And truly, I didn't dig that deep into that part. So if you were interested, she like broke down like all of them throughout time. So would recommend.
Hey, and if you go over there, let her know we sent you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let her know.
And
say,
then,
I'm here because the folks over at SMSoup who are
Told me to
doing
come
God's
here.
work, making podcasts.
oh my God. But
being funny.
otherwise it was general Google researching.
Recommended I go.
Largely, there was an article on theweek.com about the history of marriages.
Spell that.
Week, like WEEK.
Okay.
Like a week of time.
Yeah. I didn't know if you meant like the week, as in the scrawny.
No. I'm sure there is that though. And then lastly, a big help was Martha Stewart has a blog post on the history of wedding cake smashing. So that was also very useful. So history of marriage. Now I have to be ready to not breathe for like 20 minutes. Okay. So way back.
A long time ago.
A long time ago in a
galaxy far away.
Thank you.
Naboo was under an attack.
Hunter-gatherers. Before people settled down and were no longer nomadic, they were known to travel in groups of roughly 30 people, and they didn't have strict partnerships as understood by anthropologists. I believe that would be the people who study that. Quote, the week, they would have a handful of male leaders who, quote, shared the women, and thus children were created. Yes. What?
I need you to jump ahead.
That's the only point I have on that.
Okay.
That's it.
To like true civilization. And here's why.
Uh-huh.
How do we know?
I don't know.
Fucking anything
about
don't. Those people outside of, we're fairly confident they did exist.
I don't know.
You know, like
we
got Lucy, right? We got her bones.
Yeah.
We have her skeleton or whatever, right? And we have a good idea of like how she like walked because she wasn't like perfectly upright or whatever, right? That was Lucy.
Right.
She was named after Lucy and the Sky with Diamonds.
Right.
The Beatles song.
I don't know how we know that.
Right. So like, but like anything like beyond that, I'm always just kind of like, all right.
I think the point of pointing that out.
You're like saying that they were basically lions.
I think the point of pointing that out was that there wasn't a known structure of what we know as marriage today.
And before
the first recorded one.
Because they couldn't even communicate with each other outside of grunting. The first recorded one. When was that? 3 million years later.
No. 2350 BC in Mesopotamia.
Right. When we're...
Before that, I don't know.
Yeah, when we're hunter-gatherers.
A long time
They were wiped
that.
out probably by like the Ice Age.
I mean, yeah.
They were probably dancing with T-Rexes.
Yeah, they were having a fucking party.
That's when bestiality was okay. I'm joking. It's still okay.
Yeah. So that was the first recorded evidence of a marriage,
Mesopotamia,
marriage ceremony uniting one woman and one man. Like, I'll say legally, but we'll come to find like the law wasn't always as involved as we thought it was, as we see it today. Because of course, what was law?
I said, I'm guessing it was like never really involved because a lot of it was probably, again, to whatever extent you think of law,
right?
But a lot of it was probably power based, like uniting of families, right, and stuff like that. Which, in a way, if you have power, you also like that is like law, right? Like government is power and all that stuff. Yeah. So like, but yeah, like. Illegal versus legal, or like what it truly means and all that under the eyes of President George Washington. Right. Mesopotamia, fertile land.
Mesopotamia, well, it was all about being fertile. There was no connection to marriage being about love, religion, anything.
All about popping a baby.
And basically by doing this, a man could guarantee that his heir was biologically his, and there'd be no question about it. So it was basically starting the importance of family lines.
So it was, this woman can't get passed around to other people.
Yes.
I have to be the soul.
Yes. Yeah.
So that way I can be certain
this child is mine.
Johnny.
Yeah.
Is mine.
Again, it started
the importance
2000
of BC.
Yeah.
So that's like.
I mean, I honestly, before the 1900s, no concept of time. Like if you say a year to me, a century to me, I'm like, I don't know what you're saying right now.
Like I love that. Like so, people want to be like, oh, Adam and Eve are, like we're all related back to Adam and Eve, right? No. We're all related back to these motherfuckers in Mesopotamia.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Fucking and sucking.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Until this fucker had to go and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
this one's definitely mine. At that point, beforehand, birth certificates out the window.
I know.
Right here,
I know.
the first birth certificate.
Also, like, why?
No, he's walking around holding this child like, this one is mine. Look at what I created.
I love the concept that someone just started caring about a family line. Like, why? What caused that?
He probably was not very attractive.
Yeah, and you really just needed a claim to something.
Yeah. My guess is that he was having a hard time pulling any, you know?
Yeah, so he had to make it more
He got
important.
no bitches.
Yeah.
So he but he had money.
Right, of
you
course
know?
he did.
He had stature.
Yeah.
And so he was like,
he's like, yo,
this is how it has to
you
be.
pledge yourself to me?
No, you can't. No, it has to just be me, but I'll give you a lot of money.
Ooh, a lot of money.
And then about 2,000 years later, Jesus did the same thing with Mary Magdalene.
In ancient Greece, a father would hand over his daughter using the words, quote, I pledge my daughter for the purpose of producing legitimate offspring. So it was solely, obviously, about fertility, having children, creating family lines, all of that being.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little surprised that it does date that far back because, you know, you often think about how, I don't know. When was like Caesar? Like when was that era of like Greece and Rome and stuff like that? Because you just often like think about how like everybody was just like,
I mean, Caesar was 100 BC, born 100 BC, so right around.
I don't know. I just feel like you always think about like that era of time as just like orgies galore.
Oh, I mean, there's tons of history of especially Greece. We all think of Greece.
And you'd imagine that people don't
Greece
have like
being a very free-flowing time.
Right.
We'll call it that.
Right. But so like, you know, like people like,
who knows? It's hard to quantify. Was everyone following this? Or was it growing
like back then, you know?
Like, what do you mean? Like to not have children?
Yeah.
Oh no, everyone was having children.
Right.
Without
like,
a doubt. Yeah.
You go to the local bathhouse, there's a 99% chance you're walking out of there with a child.
Something, yeah.
In you. With something. Yeah, a child or a disease.
I mean, that's the thing is like, who knows these are just like these seeds being planted of tradition. Like,
seeds were being planted. All right.
Who knows like truly how widespread they were, how widely adopted they were. Like it's hard to truly, that's why I'm saying there's an exception to everything I'm saying, but there have been roots of these things found in these time periods.
Yeah.
So, because yes, Greece is literally known for being much more, again,
like you said, free flowing is a good word. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Everybody's fucking and sucking.
As Greece likes to say, everyone be fucking and sucking.
The year 0.
And we went, no more.
A little man comes from
a little carpenter,
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
A little carpenter. With
little drummer boy.
With his little party tricks. Ooh.
Of course, the thing to absolutely keep in mind during all of this was through like all different cultures. It literally says ancient Hebrews, Greeks, Romans. They were still allowed, the men in the relationship were still allowed to seek sexual pleasure elsewhere. The marriage was solely for making children. It wasn't for pleasure. So the man was allowed to go seek pleasure elsewhere because obviously your wife can't give you pleasure.
Wouldn't you still be creating other
but they're
children,
illegitimate.
Oh, a bunch of Jon Snows.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of bastards.
Mm-hmm. So that was like the big detail. But the wife like would never ever be able to do that. At least not in traditional senses.
Yeah.
Like she stayed home, did her wifely duties. But it was always accepted for the man to go out and because a marriage isn't about having fun. It's about having your duty be reproducing.
Yeah. It's about me getting my rocks off.
Exactly.
And you making me dinner.
Exactly. We jump forward to, my understanding was around like 450 to 500 AD, where the
Anthony Davis.
Yeah. Where basically Catholicism, specifically the Roman Catholic Church, is spreading across Europe.
Here we fucking go.
Here we go.
These motherfuckers showed up.
Where basically the church decided a priest was required to bless the marriage for it to be, they used the word legally recognized. But again, I found like that was when like basically the church ruled everything.
Right.
So
like,
that would be
they created the laws.
I know. I just hate using that term because that's not how we would see it today as legally recognized.
Yeah, because you're supposed to separate church and state.
But that was the governing body at the time was the church. Yeah. So They created that out of nowhere. And this also was where monogamy became the norm for Western marriages and Western relationships because of the Roman Catholic Church. So they literally worded it as conditions improved for women because...
Can you take that?
No, I don't need to take that.
Shelby's phone is vibrating.
I'm sorry. They worded it as conditions improved for women because it was preached for men to treat their wives with respect, which I'm sure went well.
And what year was this?
Like 500 AD.
Oh, and so this is right around the time they were able to vote, too.
Yeah, right
so
around
conditions
then.
were really getting better for
Exactly,
women. Nice.
Exactly.
I love that. Conditions are getting better for women.
I know.
They still have no power whatsoever, but sometimes their husband doesn't go and fuck the girl down the street.
Or treat them like shit, or who knows.
Well, no. Just the first part.
Well, yeah.
He's home more often, so he's actually treating her more like shit.
Because now
he's like, great, now I have to help take care of the children.
No, that's still the woman's job. Don't be crazy.
But what else is he going to do?
Well, now it was wrong for a man to cheat on his wife, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also forbidden from divorcing them, which starting the sentence with how conditions improved and ending it with you couldn't divorce your partner does not sound like the same sentence.
Wasn't divorce like forbidden up until like
a really long time in most Western cultures.
I feel like it's recent.
Yeah.
That like it was like I want to say America was founded and you still couldn't
probably not or
get a divorce.
It would probably be heavily discouraged.
No, like you needed
shunned.
to kill them.
I mean, yeah, probably.
That was the only way out.
Yeah, probably.
Which honestly,
not a bad way out.
Pretty hardcore. Like, I agree with some people. Much like I think current day people couldn't survive Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, people who were in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 lobbies couldn't survive kill or be killed. No such thing as divorce.
Oh my God. I put a note and I said, LOL, can we talk about 1, not being able to divorce someone, generally not good. 2, the fact that Christian blessings became the requirement for legal marriage is hot garbage because it was Catholic, sorry. But because obviously it was intended to cut non-Catholics out of the deal. Literally like illegitimizing their relationships.
Wow.
Most likely.
And now look at where we are today.
3, which they did point this out. Obviously, they're like, women are being treated better, but it was still absolute law that like men are the head of the household. And I mean, that's literally in like, though it's used in the Bible is like women are too. I don't even remember what the fucking line is because my blood boils every time I hear it. But basically women are to listen and like do as told.
Which, if you ask me, I feel like I do a lot of the listening in this relationship.
I don't feel like you do a lot of the uptold though.
Yeah, because if you tell me what to do, I'll hit you with the I'm a man. I don't. Again, you're probably gonna jump ahead to this, but that's the thing that like kind of bothers me so much about marriage.
Yes,
right?
I do.
Is because it was hijacked by religion, right?
It was.
And so often people love to like tout that it's a religious thing,
right? Which,
like you just talked about, like technically isn't true. But sure, if you hijacked it early enough, you can claim anything as yours.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
If you're LeBron James and you can trademark Taco Tuesday 20 years after people were already saying it,
right,
it might be yours.
Right.
Like, you know, whatever. So if you want to have that like be the stake of claim, fine, whatever. I don't really care that much, but there's no alternative to then get like, again, the tax benefits and stuff like that. And you can if you have a domestic partnership, but that's not recognized everywhere. So there needs to be an actual legal like law of the land of the United States, because I don't know how this works in other countries, right?
Right.
If you want to truly say that, like, yeah, marriage is a religious ceremony, full stop.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't care. But like, then there still needs to be an option.
A recognition beyond that if you don't identify with that group.
Yeah.
Or want to do
because
that
again,
way.
you're supposed to separate
church
from state.
Which is the biggest.
Yet, how many states
criticism.
won't recognize a domestic partnership? They'll
Right.
only recognize a marriage, but a marriage is seen as a religious thing, which is, if it's a religious thing, that's why we have the right to be bigots and not allow gay people to get married.
I think it being a religious thing is just that's how hardened tradition is in a social construct, because it's like like it's not. Like it's just it's like you said, it's been turned into a religious thing.
Right.
It's not, religion didn't invent it.
Right.
It's just they twisted something that already existed to match their quote unquote values.
Right.
And mostly
Right. Like they've done with like a certain book 20 times over.
I put a note and I said, keep in mind, in different cultures and throughout history, obviously marrying ages varied heavily. And in a lot of especially old history, and sometimes not even that far away, and it still happens in parts of the world, women were seen as soon as they hit puberty, which in case you don't know, can literally happen
13.
It can happen younger than that.
Yeah.
It can happen really, like, I don't want to say any time, because obviously not any time, but like people, it hits them as young as 9, 10 sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously, generally, by 13, you've probably hit puberty, but you know, there's fluctuations to that. So these are like, I wrote like 12 to 15-year-olds getting married to who knows who.
Which
and some people it was older gentlemen.
I
And some
love,
people it was other children. Like it's whole thing.
I mean, I love the talking point that people bring up about why does it matter when somebody knows they know, right? Love that talking point. The only thing that I can minorly give a pass on that is the fact that the length and time of which you're living was probably so very short, right?
To a degree, yes.
To a degree.
But also most historical marriages were arranged, not
that being said,
chosen out of love.
Nobody should be able to make that decision for you.
Exactly.
But like if somebody was just like, you know, if our average lifespan today was 40.
Yes.
And two people with the like autonomy that we have to live our own lives, where at the age of 15, two people were like, we're getting married.
Right.
It wouldn't be that weird.
Right.
It's only weird because you're so fucking young.
Right.
And
we've come to understand
oftentimes it's not two 15-years trying to marry each other.
Right. I mean, in this context,
oftentimes it's a 68-year-old man trying to marry a 15-year-old boy or girl.
And
who's yelling about drag shows.
In this context, of course, we're talking like dad walks in to daughter's room. She's probably 12, 13. And he's says, like, you're married.
I just met Joe.
Yeah.
He's 35.
Yes.
He's a welder.
Yes. He's very successful.
He has money.
He will bring our family.
He just gave me $1 million.
Yeah.
You're no longer my daughter.
Exactly. Yes, that is the general context we were talking about.
I'm going to go back to loving your brother more than I love you.
And you better be fertile or you will literally bring shame to all of us.
Right. Well, unless you have a son. Because he can carry on the
No, but just like
name.
if she can't reproduce.
Yo, can you imagine being a father back in, I don't know what year you said, 500 AD.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
You're like, got to keep this family line going.
Right.
First kid. Daughter.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, it is interesting.
That's not going to keep the Miller name alive.
It's interesting though, because it's both it's both wanting your actual name to continue, but it's also wanting your daughters who will lose their name.
Right.
To be able to reproduce.
Right. Well, so that's why you have a second kid.
Oh, I see.
Oh, shit. It's also a daughter.
Oh, shit.
It's all right. We'll just have a third kid.
Yeah.
Daughter.
Right.
Fuck. Fourth kid. Daughter. Fifth kid. Wife dies in childbirth, but it's a son. So there's a chance. Right? There's a chance.
Right.
He's infertile.
Ooh.
And you die.
But you wouldn't blame him.
And you die.
You wouldn't know he's infertile.
And
it would obviously be the woman's fault.
And so your name is gone forever.
Right.
Pretty funny. Pretty funny when you think about it. Hey, that could have happened.
What could have happened?
That could have happened, and that's scary.
The exact scenario you just said?
Yeah, that a man could have lost his lineage.
Yeah. I'm sure
because he had 5 kids and his wife died.
Yeah.
And the son was infertile. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That could have happened.
It probably did.
And that's just scary to know that could have happened.
Are you like saying
because if that
specific?
could happen to him, that could happen to me, and that's scary.
So a note I put was obviously marriage was generally a transaction. It was a way to connect strong and powerful families. It was a way to trade women as property. It was a way to spread religion, because if everyone has to be a religion to get married, they're either going to convert or they're not going to be just recognized, most likely, as anything. They're going to be ignored. Also, I put also so much of this was men can do whatever they want, women cannot, etc., etc.
Let's go. Take me back to 500 AD, baby.
So I put somewhere around the year 1000 to 1200. We've now jumped about 5 to 6.
Shakespeare era?
It's like we are getting into right before the Renaissance. So, yes. Is that Shakespeare? Yeah, that's Shakespeare. I don't know. Honestly, all these dates like freak my brain out because they were so long ago. But
800 years ago.
The concept it started to appear in literature of falling in love with someone, of having to gain the heart of someone.
Shakespeare.
Like it genuinely, yes. I actually think so. I don't have that like written down, but
that crazy son of a bitch. He really did it.
They literally were like basically how to woo someone, and it would be both sides. Like it would be like women, how to like very on the side flirt with people in public.
How to tastefully
exactly
show an ankle.
Exactly. And it would be like stories were being written about men trying to win the hearts of women, which before had never happened because it was never about attraction. It was about reproduction. It was never about
love. Yeah, it was about, I would say it was still probably about attraction. To a degree. But also, again, so much influence. Hot people always find hot people. Hello. Hello.
But also so much value.
Just a couple of 10s talking to you here. Don't go to the video portion of this podcast.
So much value was put on like power and family line. That's like,
true. Yeah.
Who knows?
It was probably more so. Yeah, you're right. It's probably more so about wealth than
it's not that no one was ever found attractive, but I think other factors were taken into consideration.
A real butterface situation.
So like this was said to give women some leverage in social situations, because they were kind of put in a place where like they could sort of start to hint like, hey, I'm going to like rest my hand right against yours very slyly.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, I kind of like you.
Do you think people...
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
I think people in the 1200s were more... Do you think guys were more tit man or ass man?
I'm going to say tit man. Have you ever seen like a Renaissance inspired outfit?
I feel like ass has become...
the new thing.
Yeah.
With like skinny jeans. Yeah, because they were probably all wearing like big...
Yeah.
like layers. Like that would have been dresses, right?
Or do you think it was something different? Do you think it wasn't like either?
I think it was forearms.
Probably not. Be serious.
No, I don't know. It also
been hips.
For how much we talk about like fashion today,
could have been hips.
I think
that could have been the more so thing with like a corset was like
right. Well, an outfit as a whole,
accentuating the hips, not necessarily the breasts, even though both were achieved.
Outfit as a whole both accentuates parts of the body and signifies levels of class which you would have been in, because only people can afford certain things and et cetera, et cetera.
Was my outfit right now say about me?
It says we all look the same in today's day and age because we all just wear athleisure wear. I'm sorry, my phone won't stop vibrating. So obviously this is said to have given women a leg up in social settings, but basically the whole moral of the story is constantly bad at battling very traditional social structures, whether they were actually written into some sort of code or law or whether they were just social structures. So very little change is seen. Again, there's an exception to everything I say, but nothing actually changed in terms of like marriage traditions. So this is seen even more intensely, like very traditional structures of marriage, as the Europeans begin to settle and colonize the United States, which is so fun. The English had a coverture, which is a legal doctrine that entails when a woman marries a man, everything that was hers now belongs in entirety to her husband. Her identity is now his. thus the giving up her name and all of that jazz. So I don't think they originated the giving up of the name, but it really like wrote it into law of like, you give up everything. You become your husband once you are married. Like they like literally put it in law. That's what happens to you.
And that was like 1500s?
That was Old English. Yeah, like as the time of U.S. being colonized.
Because like...
So yeah, like 15.
Yeah, because it started getting colonized. So Columbus found India in 1492.
Right.
And then somehow, also around that time, stuff started happening in America.
Right. So yeah, you'd imagine probably 1400s to 1500s. So at this point in time, 1500s, let's just say, marriage was largely a ceremony that was between the two partners and the church with minimal state involvement. And I'm saying state in a general sense, Europe, anywhere, if any. But this is just, I didn't write down the date. But good old Massachusetts was the first place to create marriage licensing. The first place. I think it was in the 1600s. Like, people were colonizing here for a couple, like, I don't even know, a couple years.
Yeah, probably like 1 or 2.
Like 1 or 2 years. And then Massachusetts instituted marriage licensing, which slowly this was adopted as more states came on board with it, but it took a very long time. And it actually was seen to have increased the gap of issues in how marriages were seen and who could not get married, because now the state's getting involved, like actually getting involved, actually like keeping track of who's getting married. They have the power to say yes or no beyond just, oh, do you religiously accept what we preach here or whatever? So yeah, because obviously it would have been, with the state getting involved, it would have been near to impossible to have any type of gay marriage, to have any type of interracial marriage, to have anything like that. Like, that is what would have solidified anything like that, is the state getting involved. Because already, the church, you're a wish-wash. Maybe you're lucky, and you can get, if you're trying to get a legitimate marriage,
yeah,
maybe you can do it.
But also, gay marriage wasn't legalized until
2014, 2015? 2013.
So even with the state having this, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. But there's always exceptions. Like, there's always been communities that existed that weren't against it.
Yeah, against it, but it still wouldn't be recognized under the law of the land.
I did look at slightly into gay marriage, and there are examples throughout history of prominent figures marrying men. And also,
prominent figures, you naturally assume a man. Perfect. Thank you. Keep going.
It was a man marrying a man.
I know.
But also, at times throughout Europe, even with some of the Catholic and Orthodox churches growing, there were organized groups who were like, if someone's in our community, we are agreeing that we like still pledge to the church, but we would like the right to like marry whom we please, thus being not a heteronormative.
Interesting. Gotcha.
So there have been small examples. There haven't been glaringly countrywide, like, we are okay with everyone, you know? Like, that hasn't happened.
Oh, yeah, we know.
Exactly. But when it wasn't state ruled, there were communities, there were pockets, there were people who were able to do it. But also I did read a thing, and it was hard to like quantify this, but making marriages a state level recognized thing meant that if you didn't do that, it was considered illegitimate. It was not a legitimate marriage. Before that, it was a little like hard, because again, it's hard to say like a fine line, but people would just marry themselves. They would basically domestic partnership themselves. They would just be like, this is my partner. I would give everything to them if something were to happen to me. I want all of our decisions to be together, but they just wouldn't have like, because that system wasn't always necessarily in place everywhere.
But I thought to be married, you had to have the religious figure, like, confirm it.
Throughout parts of Europe, but you can also imagine that might have only been applicable if you were trying to do something in the eyes of the church.
Gotcha.
Like, there's always been benefits to needing a marriage to be real. It came down to, did that affect you, and did you need that? most likely. And it's a huge region to region thing. Like, I didn't even really put in the whole like people used to marry themselves, because it kind of turned everything into a gray area, because again, it was hard to like say specifically what was and wasn't a thing. And I read a small thing that England, I think at one point, had to literally say like, if you have like married yourself, like we are saying as of right now, that's not a legitimate marriage, because like you need to come and like have it be real, because that was like such a problem. Like people were just marrying themselves and saying like we're a partnership.
You keep saying marrying themselves,
Because,
and
like,
it sounds to
it
me
would
like
be,
you're
like-
saying like, no, it's
I
if
know.
you say I married,
Yes.
you're saying like
Yeah.
if you it makes it sound like you're saying like I married myself.
No, I know. I
Like,
know.
to myself.
It would be like you and I
I'm
right
taking
here.
time to marry me.
It would be like
I'm
if-
focusing on
Yep.
number one.
It would be like if you and me sat here right now and
And
we
we're
went,
like-
we're married.
Yes,
That would
I
be-
understand what you're saying,
yeah.
but each time you say it,
I know.
what's going through my head is like somebody's just like, look at me, I'm an outcast. I married myself,
Yeah. So there
and
are
there's nobody else there. Like they're just talking to themselves.
in that section of like people who would quote unquote not need to go through an official process of marriage. Like there probably were like gay couples. There probably were like interracial marriages.
Sure.
Like all of that probably existed.
I gotcha.
Because they didn't, in the structures they lived in, didn't need it to be a fact. They didn't need it to be on paper to
Sure.
prove to people. But yeah. So we left it with like colonization in the US,
Massachusetts, first one to do.
marriage licenses,
Yeah.
but it was still like basically every strict traditional concept of marriage was brought here, and just, you know, there were no longer outside interference. So I feel like if anything, I wonder if that like made it hold on stronger, you know, us being on our own little rock over here, like, and being like the only way you could be was a European, I'm putting everything in air quotes, or you would be like a Native American or a Native person. So I'm heavily assuming the idea was like, we're going to stick so strong to our tradition because we don't want to appear as anything else. That is me largely just talking and speculating.
Wow.
But,
Makes sense. Makes sense. Live in our own little bubble.
But yeah, so all of what we just said would have been around 1500s, 1600s. And then literally what everything I was reading was like, and then nothing changed until basically the 1920s. So we literally just jumped like 300 years.
Yeah, because now women are allowed to vote.
Exactly. And literally the article wrote it as, now this union consisted of, and I quote, 2 full citizens. So both
Bro.
both had quote unquote a now legitimate say in what would happen.
But like, women had power in other societies.
Yeah.
Like that literally had to have been, they came over here and the like 20 people who sat in that room,
Right.
all white men,
Right.
were like, you know what? This is our opportunity to really make it about us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it was just like the most vocal people won. That was it.
Well, they were the most vocal because nobody else was like able to like say anything.
Well, right, exactly.
That's just wild to me. Because again, like, you know that like, I mean, like monarchs and stuff were like women, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so like leaders of other countries and like societies and like were women.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that all
So
comes
they
down.
held power.
Does that all come down to how heavily Catholicism has been embedded into our
It's just crazy.
lives?
It's just crazy that like it's not from 2000 BC till 1920. Women weren't real people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, it says a lot. People always like to say this, like he's definitely banging his litter box.
Is he?
He was. People constantly love to say like history is literally like his story. So there's also a huge gray area over everything because we all know whose stories were written and how many people's were forgotten and ignored and arguably erased. So we're only getting so much of the story. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm still listening.
What was he doing?
Put my fucking hats in his fucking food. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's like the whole thing, right? Like, you gotta take everything with like a slight grain
Yes.
of salt because,
Absolutely.
you know, what people tell you, like it might be true, but also like the people who won the war get to write the story.
Exactly. So this did so basically, which also 1920s, that meant white women got to vote. There's still a huge amount of people being completely ignored at this time period. But in the late 1960s, interracial marriage was finally legal. Thus, like basically all of these steps, like from the 1920s to now, we're taking all these very, very painfully small steps so that we're just, it's
100 years ago.
And it is.
That's it.
Yeah. But that is what it took to break the societal norm of marriage.
Like
that's
your
what it took.
grandparents.
Yeah.
One of them couldn't vote when they were
Precisely.
born.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point during their life,
yeah,
they were given the right to vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just your grandparents' grandparent.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
That's also just voting. Like, okay, voting was able in 1920, but it's literally known that
I know
a woman couldn't get her own bank account until like 1960.
I'm saying.
No, I know. That's
just the start of it.
I know.
And that's 100 years ago.
Exactly.
And think about all the other fucking shit.
Yeah.
Vietnam happened. And we lost. And we only know that because Vietnam wrote the history.
So it literally took shit like this to finally start breaking down the super traditional viewpoints of marriage, which we still have a very long way to go. But finally, this shit was happening. And another huge step, which I hate even having to say this, it wasn't until 1970 that marital rape was recognized by law. Before that, that wasn't something that could happen. It wasn't a concept that could be real. You couldn't claim that occurred to you because what do you mean? If you're married to them, you have a right to do whatever you want, is basically what the argument was before that. And that was like there was a huge blurb on that. Like that was earth-shattering decisions in 1970. That was groundbreaking information.
Your grandparents were alive for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
what do you think was more groundbreaking? That change or no longer being allowed to drink and drive? Serious question.
I'm still going to go with drinking and driving.
You think that one broke people up more?
Yes, I do. Because I think drinking has always been...
Because women like to drink and drive, but women didn't like to be...
Exactly. Yeah, that's the difference. No, I think drinking's always been a very integral part of our society for whatever reason.
What about prohibition?
Well, yeah, that does put a bit of a wrench in it, but I don't think enough to... I still feel like more people... Yeah.
Kind of weird how...
Also because I don't think people saw it as that dangerous.
Kind of weird how...
Especially at the time.
Prohibition happens and women have the right to vote. Only one of those things was changed, but maybe we should look at changing both of those things.
Okay, I did just I have a few more notes on quote unquote history, but it's hard to put a year on this, but marriages based on love and attraction over family benefit or anything of that reproduction, I'll just say, became easier in a growing economy, especially when which this is very recent, but I mean the globalization of economy, industrialization, because you no longer had to depend on someone having successful parents that you could depend on, or you would inherit their fortune or belongings or business or whatever. You no longer had to depend on that. It became much more young couples had the choice to, sure, sometimes it literally meant abandoning their family or being abandoned, but you could take that risk for the first time and try to make it on your own.
That has to be a more recent phenomenon.
It's definitely more recent. Obviously, different countries probably would have experienced it at different times based on industrialization.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying that like it doesn't like span back further than we would think, but you have to keep in mind that like, especially before women joined the workforce, right?
Yeah.
Like you were marrying somebody because of their economic stature.
Absolutely,
right?
that literally gave you the pathway of what the rest of your life's gonna look like.
Yeah. Crazy.
So
you just hope that he's good looking,
right? You hope you get lucky.
Yeah.
You never do. So I do want to reiterate, everything I just said has been a very heavily like lens on a very heterosexual cisnormative relationship, because that is just how most of it was told and how history was said, and it would have all
God
been
intended.
And obviously, specifically speaking, the U.S., it would have also been primarily white people until very recently in history.
It's just crazy. It's so crazy. It literally blows my mind that we love to act like these things happened so long ago, right? Like we love to think that like Martin Luther King.
Well, yeah, it's the whole only showing photos in black and white.
Yeah, well, yeah, older. But also like it feels like the way we talk about it, it's like, and thank God that's so far in our rear view, and it's like,
and it would be like my grandparents were there. My grandparents were.
That's what I've been saying.
I know, but literally,
our parents.
Yeah,
I think all four. I think both of my parents and both of your parents would have been alive before Martin Luther King was assassinated. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's just crazy to think about.
Yep.
Makes you put everything into perspective.
So really quick, because I realize I've been talking a long time.
You have not. I've been interrupting you so much. I've had a blast. This was a lot of fun.
We still have more to talk about.
What?
So weddings, I did write down a few wedding ceremony or traditions. These can be quick fire.
I thought we were just talking about the history of marriage.
Ring fingers, believed from ancient Greece, because Greeks believed there was a vein that ran from your that ring finger, so your left hand ring finger, to your heart. It has been proven that doesn't exist, but it was believed that it did. And by putting a ring on it, you were like effectively constricting it, saying like, I will never let like basically my heart be for anyone else. It's for this person. Right. That's what's believed to have started the ring finger. Okay. It is believed this is fucking crazy.
But what did they put on there? Because it wasn't until recently that the fucking ring companies.
The recent thing
fucking diamonds.
The recent thing is diamonds. Greeks did use rings. Okay. They would have been probably like gold, and they would have been like a band that's etched, not really like maybe stones, but like probably more like an etched band than anything. The Romans are believed to have started the concept of bridesmaids, which this is horrible. The bridesmaids were literally basically bodyguards and personal protection of the person getting married, because they would have to protect both the bride and her dowry leading up to the wedding day, because there was such a fear that the woman was literally going to be like kidnapped or something of the effect before the wedding went through. So the bridesmaids were literally there to protect the bride leading up to the actual wedding day. Love that. It was said that they would sometimes all wear the same outfit so that they couldn't know who was who, and thus you would just see a group of women and you like couldn't tell who the bride was. And I literally put, because oh no, the bride might be pretty and seem as valuable to gross doo-doo heads walking in the streets, was the note I put to that. Dad walking down the aisle obviously is a transaction of property. That is where it started. The father literally is handing his daughter. I love that we just
keep these things.
That's what's crazy to me. Like, I'm not saying like obviously.
Yeah, but we've kind of retaken it and we've attributed something else to it.
Right.
Yeah, dude. But it still started as this.
It still started
and
as
it
this.
still looks like it.
I agree. Yes.
Also, the whole bridesmaids thing, real quick. Yeah. The thing that I thought it was going to be, what you said is way worse than I thought. I thought it was just going to be like the effective like bridesmaids and groomsmen. The idea was to like try and pair off others.
I hear you. Yeah, there was no note on groomsmen, so I don't know if they just came after the fact.
Right, because men felt left out.
Yeah, probably. They were like, wait,
why do you get your friends?
So the smashing of the cake, which again, Martha Stewart has a whole blog post on this.
What does that even mean?
Like when you go to eat cake, you know how they always get smashed in each other's faces? That's not just fun. That's not for well, now it is, but that wasn't started as for fun. So do you know what I'm talking about though?
Yes.
Okay. The
We're not doing
Romans.
that.
No, we're not doing that at all. I don't think it's fun.
No, I'm saying, like, if people try to get us to do it, I'm ruining the cake.
Don't. I'm making the cake.
Oh, well, you better make a second.
The Romans would, which again, I'm going to say cake very liberally. It was probably like a form of bread or something. But the Romans would smash their cake on the wife's head, showing dominance over them. And also some cultures attributed it to a sign of fertility. So that's fun. I think it was the Greeks. The wife would take a handful of bread and throw it over her shoulder to be like, I don't know. Actually, I don't remember what that meant. But like there were different versions of it. The Romans specifically would, some articles said crumble, some said smash. I'm sure depending on the person, it was a different level of asshole. Yeah. So that's fun. Apparently medieval England would kiss over a pile of buns, symbolizing plenty and wealth. So it wasn't always the worst thing in the world, but you know, yeah. I did read an article on if in today's day and age you should still do it. And people were like, some see it as fun. Some are starting to see it as an omen of divorce because clearly you don't respect your partner. And I'm like, it's a gray area. It depends on the couple. It depends who they are. It depends how they feel about it. Would I sit there and be like, that's an omen for divorce? I mean, I hope not. But it is believed that the kissing at the altar was done because so many people were illiterate that they wouldn't be able to sign a contract. So the kiss was the signature of the contract, a signature of an agreement, because they couldn't read or write. So that's why we kiss at the end of ceremony.
That's still true today because I can't read.
Right.
I don't know how to read.
And
or write, yeah. You're right.
lastly, presenting or taking the women's garter or underwear at a wedding is from the Renaissance time when, of course, the whole idea around this time, religion had taken over, so you couldn't have sex before marriage. So the idea was literally right after the wedding, you'd be whisked off to the bedroom. And the idea was you would have sex right then and there. And the hope was you'd get pregnant right then and there. And as proof, someone would come into the bedroom post-sex and like take a art garment of underwear and like bring it out and be like, it happened, everyone, like, yay, which means everyone was still there and you just like left. And they also held to the tradition of like, clearly a woman's gonna bleed if she's a virgin, so if she didn't, it would be believed she wasn't a virgin, which has by now been disproven, of course, that that's not a thing. But yeah, so that was how they bared witness, was by showing the women's garter or underwear. And so now when we like take it off of people during weddings, it's supposed to be a derivative of that. And that was all I wrote. Of course, as always, the US has majorly capitalized on weddings, and the wedding industry in the US alone is believed to be worth like $70 billion as of 2023. And the average cost of a wedding in 2023 is projected to be $29,000, jumping up from $28,000 in 2022. That the big marriage and big wedding of the US wasn't a thing until about the 1950s, when marketing said, this is what you have to do at your wedding or you're going to look awful. So also big weddings didn't exist until like 1950. So isn't that fun? Because now everyone like freaks out if you don't have a big wedding. And that was all the history and stuff. Again, I know there were a lot of cultures not represented, a lot of areas of the world not represented, a lot of people not represented, but the general basis of what US weddings are today is that giant heaping sack of garbage that I just said. So yeah, isn't that fun? You've just been silently staring at me for like 8 minutes now. How do you feel? You feel icky?
Yeah, indifferent.
Yeah, same. I put Shelby's ending thoughts because obviously these are my opinions. They are what they are. I put marriage is complicated. Are we talking about the legal piece of paper we receive from the state? Are we talking about a partnership? Are we talking about someone we've lived with for 10 years and have no plans of leaving, etc.? It's safe to say a legally binding marriage has a gross and gray history. They were often means of controlling others or increasing classist, racist, and sexist systems. There are history. Oh, I did make the comment about marrying themselves. And like, I do feel like that bled into like domestic partnerships, but like we already kind of talked about that. And final note is I went most of my 25 years of life strongly believing I wouldn't get married. I found the concept of it reeking of outdated ideologies that people love to weaponize against others. Do I still completely agree with what marriage is as a whole? No. But I've also come to recognize the system that we are in and how having one silly piece of paper you pay $30 for can mean. It means you're recognized as family. Without this piece of paper, you're just two people living together in the eye of the law. And then I put all US based. Because yes, as much as I will happily sit here and shit on it and happily point out all the things wrong with it and all the things that are continue to be wrong with it, there is a value to having it. It in the US does protect two people, gives you access to each other, and guarantees you will continue to have access to each other. So in the end, I obviously believe do what's best for you. But I will never not shit on marriage as a concept, is what I need to say.
Right.
Even though I'm literally getting married.
Right. No. And I just want to say, I went most of my 25 years of life believing so strongly I wouldn't get married. I found the concept of it reeking of outdated ideologies that people love to weaponize against other people. Do I still completely agree with with what marriage is? No. But I also have come to recognize that I really would like Shelby to have health insurance, and I would love for Shelby to be able to visit me in the hospital if I ever have a collapsed lung again.
The end.
And how having one silly piece of paper you pay $30 can mean.
Yes. That was so well written, Spencer.
Also,
yeah,
tax benefits.
Ooh. So yeah,
married, filing jointly.
Oh shit.
That's right. I learned about tax law.
So yeah, Spencer and I know no one really cares, but because we're talking about it, we did contemplate domestic partnership for a hot minute. And in the state of Massachusetts, that is a recognized relationship, but it is not across all 50 states. And even like even if you just can't guarantee it's going to stick or it's going to hold up or someone's going to care or anything like that. So if that was a countrywide ruling, like that to me almost better symbolizes what our intentions are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it just sucks. But as I think I heard someone sum up in a TikTok, they were like, the US government loves corporations, rich people, and married people. Like, that's it. Like, they love partnerships. Oh, they love white people. We do know that.
Straight people?
Yes, they do tend to love straight people.
Or heteronormative relationships.
Heterosexual relationships, yeah, whichever. But yeah, it does protect you in some capacities, for sure. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. If you are planning on residing in a state forever, I mean, obviously maybe research that state's marriage laws, but also recognize that if you ever choose to travel, different places, unfortunately, value that sort of relationship differently. And it's all shit you have to take into consideration when you're like, wow, I really like this person and we're probably going to be together forever. But like, what do I want that to look like in the eyes of the government? So it's complicated, but we're all trying our best. And that is my very long-winded way of saying we're getting married. Marriage kind of sucks, but sometimes it's okay.
We should thought about this.
Yeah.
Fun little idea.
Okay.
This is totally, I'm no longer talking about marriage. Just want to say that. This is a hard segue.
Okay.
I think we should have a special guest on the podcast to build some cults.
Okay.
Stay tuned for that.
All right. Like, we're going to build our own?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sign me up.
Cool. Other than that, that was your history on marriage.
That was.
Let us know if you want us to do any other deep dives this. Shelby loves to research topics and then talk about them.
I do love to research topics and talk about them. And I'm very aware. I'm sure I don't always go about them in like the most educated, backed up, whatever. But I promise I try my best. And that's it. It's just from the mind of a curious person, not from someone who's genuinely trying to like put myself in the position of like educating anyone.
Yeah.
But like the hope is.
I mean, I think like
the
for
hope
the
is
most
you
part,
hear a few things and maybe you're like,
I
that's
feel like
interesting.
you're not also like you didn't come at this from the standpoint of like, here's why you should hate marriage.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like however you feel about it.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
This is what a lot of the stuff was.
Yeah.
And how it progressed to where it is today.
Yes.
I think that's how you tackle it, and I think that's like the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not trying to like be like, here's what's wrong with the soda industry. You know,
but what if?
Well, we could, but you know, like we're not trying to like cramp on anybody's style really with any of it.
At the end of the day, I don't give a shit what anyone
does. We're just trying to like dive into it because it's if at the end of the day, at the very least, super interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
I
crazy.
also think it's really good to know because there's this whole new wave of opting to not get married or not valuing it, which I'm all for. Like definitely not valuing it. You shouldn't just like be worried about doing it by a certain stage of your life. But even the people who
26.
even the people who are in partnerships and just are electing not to, and the people who get upset by that, I feel like if people had which again, you can sit there and be like, but it means something different now. Okay, but people can still elect to not want to be a part of that for whatever reason. And like, I think if there was more knowledge about that, then maybe people would be a little bit more open to like, basically letting people do whatever they want to do. So as much as talking about it, some people probably see that as like, oh great, let's just harp on something that's like someone's best day of their life. I just think it's better as a whole that we all can have like more honest conversations about it.
Definitely.
That's it. I'm out of breath.
All right.
What are
we talking about next week?
I have no idea.
I do.
Okay.
Cool.
All
right.
Thanks for listening.
We talked about it last week. We talked about what we're going to talk about next week. Last week.
Yeah. Wait, we were supposed to come with movie clubs, weren't we? We didn't do that.
We'll have that for next week.
We'll
so
have
that
it
way,
for next week.
The following week, we can actually discuss the movie.
Okay, cool. My bad. I got too into the wedding stuff. Yeah.
All right.